Hello, Shelley from Spin Cushions here, and this is my square called Alboran. And as you can see, it's quite an interesting one. The first 6 rounds are really easy, and I don't think I'm even going to show you all of them, because after you've done the first couple, you'll know exactly what to do. Round 7, though, is going to be the one that is going to make you think, but once you understand what's happening, it really isn't that hard at all. So let's get started. I'm going to do mine in all one colour, but I'll let you know if anything needs to change if you're finishing your colour and starting with a new one. So I'm going to start with a magic circle. You can do the chain 4, join it into a loop, however you like to start your granny squares. So the start of this one, round 1, is actually just like a granny square. So chain 3 starting chain or a false stitch like I like to do. Then 2 trebles UK, doubles US. Oops, sorry, I've just got the camera a bit too far away. That's better. Then chain 2, oops, 3 treble, chain 2, so 4 groups of 3 treble, and we will have some corner spaces. I'll just do all that and I'll show you how to finish off the round. Okay, so I've done my 4 groups of 3 stitches. I'm just going to pull my magic circle tight if I can find the right one. Now, if you're changing colours, chain 2 and join with a slip stitch. We're not changing colours, so we're going to chain 1 and join with a double crochet UK, single crochet US to the first stitch, whether that's your starting chain or your false stitch. So yarn over, pull the loop through to the front, yarn over, through 2. And what that does is puts us as if we're in the middle of a 2 chain corner space. So that stitch takes the place of the second chain, and that chain 1 is the first chain. So if you have not quite sure what we're doing, I just put a little scrap of yarn through that hole, if I can find it. And that marks the place. It's going to help you start your next round and finish next round. Okay, so round 2 is chain 3 starting chain or a false stitch if you like to do a false stitch. Then you're going to do a treble UK, a double US in the back loop only of the next 3 stitches. So if you've done a false stitch like me, you actually do have a back loop only here. If you've done a chain 3 starting chain, sorry, it is a little tight to get into. If you've done a chain 3 starting chain, I will do that next round and show you what it looks like to work into the back loop of that. So that's 1, oops, 2, 3. Now in the corner in this round we have 1 stitch, chain 2 and 1 stitch. Right, so that's all there is to this round. A stitch in the back loop only of the ones alongside, and in the corners 1 stitch, chain 2, 1 stitch. I'll work around and I will show you how to finish this round. Okay, so I've just done all of my repeats. The last instruction is to do a stitch in the same space as our first stitch, which is where that stitch marker is. And then you can move that stitch marker up. If you're changing colours, chain 2 and join with a slip stitch. If you're not changing colours, then you can do what we did last time, which is chain 1 and join with a double crochet UK, single crochet US to the top of our first stitch. Okay, all right, the next 3 rounds are, well no they're not, sorry, the corner is slightly different in this round. Okay, so the first stitch in this round is chain 3 starting chain. This time I'm going to do that to show you what it looks like if that's how you're doing it. Then we're going to do a stitch over the joining stitch. So that's the joining stitch there. So over the joining stitch is in that big hole where the stitch marker is. Then we're going to do a stitch in the back loop only of the next 5 stitches. So every stitch alongside is going to have a stitch in the back loop only. Oops. Oops, 4, 5. Now each corner on this round has 2 stitches. 1, 2, 2 chain, and 2 stitches. Okay, so 5 stitches in the back loop only along the side, and the corners 2 stitches, chain 2, 2 stitches. I'll work around and show you how to finish. Okay, so there we are, I've done my repeat. So now I just need to do 2 stitches in the same space as our first stitches, which is where that stitch marker is. 1, 2. If you're changing colours, chain 2 and join with a slip stitch. If you're not, chain 1, join with a slip stitch to the top of your 3rd chain of your starting chain. So just in that back loop there, slip stitch, no sorry, double crochet UK, single crochet US. Don't worry about the big loop, it's okay. All right, so that's that. Now the next 3 rounds, rounds 4, 5 and 6 are all the same. It's just there's 2 extra stitches along each side. So I'm only going to show you one and you can figure out, and I'll join you back up again when it's time to, before we start round 7. Okay, so chain 3 starting chain or false stitch, which I'm going to go back to. Now, because this is a starting chain this time, back loop only is just the same place we did our slip stitch. See that loop there? This time there'll be 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now a corner on these next 3 rounds is 1 stitch, chain 2, 1 stitch. Okay, so we do that all the way around, join up as we have the previous rounds, and do that 2 more times, and I'll come back and meet you at the end of round 6. Okay, so here I am almost at the end of round 6. I've done all of my repeats. I just need to do a stitch in the same space as our first stitch, which is where that stitch marker is. Then if you're changing colours, chain 2, join with a slip stitch. If you're not, chain 1, join with a double crochet UK, single crochet US into the top of your first stitch. Okay, now round 7. It sounds like it's complicated, but it's really not. All you're doing is we're going to be working down, and those little front loops that we left, we're going to be slip stitching into them with a chain space with chains in between them. Then we're going to go across the bottom, and then we're going to come back up the side, and then we're going to finish this round, then we'll go around a couple more times. So it's probably just seems complicated because it's not something you do every day, but really it's not too bad. So the instructions say first to double crochet UK, single crochet US over the joining stitch, which is where that stitch marker is. So that's our first stitch of the round. Next we do a stitch in the next stitch. Okay, now here's where we start working down, where we start going down this part, and we'll go across, and we'll come back up. Okay, so the first thing to do, we're going to do this little thing, repeat 5 times, chain 2, then we're going to insert our hook into that front loop that was left at the base of that first stitch of the round below. That's it. Then we're going to do that again, chain 2, and we'll go down to the next row and that front loop only. Now these are when I've been doing the false stitch, but coming up there is a 3 chain space, that a chain, because I did chain 3. So that's 2 repeats, chain 2. Okay, now this one is where I did chain 3 instead of my false stitch. You can see that's in the back loop. So this little loop here is where you want to go. Just a slip stitch. Chain 2. So how many times have we done it? We've done 1, 2, 3. So this is the 4th time. We're going to that front loop of that first stitch of the round below and doing a slip stitch. And we have to do it one more time. Chain 2. And we go down here, 1, 2, 3 front loops. So this is the first one, slip stitching into, and this is our 5th repeat complete. So 5 times we've done chain 2, gone down a row and slip stitched. Okay, so we've done our first bit. The next instruction is to do a slip stitch in the front loop only of the next 2 along here. So 1 here and 1 here. Okay, so now we have done down here and across here, and now we're going to work our way back up. So this time we're going to do 4 repeats of this little repeat, chain 2. We're going to go up 1 round and slip stitch into the front loop only of the round above, the last stitch of the round above, so just before those corner stitches. So you just insert your hook, slip stitch, chain 2, go up to the next round, that very last stitch there, insert your hook and slip stitch. That's 2, chain 2, next repeat, slip stitch under there, bring it in. 3 repeats, 1 more to do, chain 2, the last front loop of the last stitch that's left is where we're slip stitching into. Okay, so now we're back to working into the stitches along the side. So we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to do a stitch in the last stitch of this round, of the very last round. We did round 6. So that's it, that's our side done. Okay, so you can do it. It's just chaining 2 and slip stitching into the first front loop and the last front loop. A corner is 1 stitch, chain 2, 1 stitch. Okay, so you repeat that around, and by the time we get back here, we'll have gone in, out, in, out, in, out. Do that 3 more times. So I'll do that now, and I'll come and show you how to join up this round. Okay, so there you go. I've been up and down all the way around. I just need to finish off this last stitch of this row, this round, which is a stitch in the same place as our slip stitch, which is where our stitch marker is. If you're changing colours, chain 2, join with a slip stitch. I'm not. I'm going to chain 1, move my stitch marker, and join with a double crochet UK, single crochet US. If I can get it in. And then we are on to round 8, nearly. Okay, so round 8. What we're going to do is start with a double crochet UK, single crochet US over the joining stitch, which is where that stitch marker is. Then we're going to do another one of those stitches in the next stitch. We're going to chain 2. We're going to skip the next stitch, which is this one here. We're going to skip that one there, and we're going to start working into the stitches of round 6. So this is the first one here. I'm going to do a half treble UK, half double US into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and then we'll do a double crochet UK, single crochet US into the next 7 stitches. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then a half stitch into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. We'll skip that next stitch and into the last stitch of the round. Oh, I'm sorry, chain 2. Skip that next stitch and in the last stitch of the round do a double crochet UK, single crochet US. That's your side. Your corner is 1 stitch, chain 2, 1 stitch. So that's that. I'll work my way around and come back and show you how to finish this one off and do our last round. Okay, all the way around, I just have to finish off this round by doing a stitch in the same place as our first stitch, which is where that stitch marker is. Same drill as before, chain 2 if you're changing colours, if you're not, chain 1 and join with a double crochet UK, single crochet US to your first stitch. Okay, last round, and it's a really easy one. First stitch is a stitch over a joining stitch where that stitch marker is. Whoops. Then we're just going to do a stitch in every stitch and 2 stitches in every 2 chain space. So I think you can handle that one. The corners are just 1 stitch, 2 chain, 1 stitch like before. So I'll come back around and show you what it looks like at the end. Alrighty, I've done all the way around. I just need to do my last little stitches, which is a stitch in the same place as our first, which is where that stitch marker is. Get rid of that. Chain 2. Join with a slip stitch to our first stitch. That is that. There you go. It will benefit from a quick block. But there you go. It's much the same size as in the Bendigo and the Cascade Ultra Pima. So, but if you need to adjust size, if you need to make it bigger, you can either block it to size or add a round like the last round. Or if it's too big, you can either take off the last round or just try it all again with a smaller hook. I hope it doesn't daunt you too much. It really isn't difficult, okay? You can do it. And I'm sure once you give it a go, you'll understand what you're doing and all will be well. So there you go. Alboran. I hope you enjoy it. I'll see you soon. Bye.